In this video, we are going to look at the division of polynomials by using the process of long division. Before we start then, we need a couple of terms. The first is our divisor, so that is what we are dividing by. In our first example, it asks us to divide x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 2 by x plus 2. Therefore, x plus 2 is our divisor. Our dividend is what is getting divided. In this example, that would be our x cubed plus minus 3x squared plus x plus 2. We're going to set up our long division then by putting our divisor out here, x plus 2, and then we are going to put our dividend under the division sign, x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 2. A couple of points here. Make sure that the dividend is arranged by descending powers of x. So you should have your cubed, your squared, to the 1, and then to the 0. If you are missing one of the terms, any of the powers, you're going to use a filler term with a 0 coefficient to hold the place. When dividing then, we are going to take our first term of our divisor and figure out how many times it goes into the first term of our dividend. In this case, x goes into x cubed, x squared times. Because if we take x squared and multiply it by x, we would get x cubed. We're going to write then what our answer is above the corresponding power of our dividend. Then what we want to do is we want to expand this out. So we're going to take x squared and multiply it by x, and then x squared and multiply it by the plus 2. So we get plus 2x squared. We are then going to subtract these two terms. X cubed minus x cubed is 0x cubed, which is just 0, so we're not going to actually write that in. And then minus 3x squared minus 2x squared becomes minus 5x squared. Our second step then is we're now going to look at our x again, and we're going to figure out how many times it goes into negative 5x squared. And that is going to happen negative 5x times. We're going to do the same as above. We're going to multiply the negative 5x times x and the negative 5x times 2. So we'd have negative 5x squared. Negative 5x times 2 is negative 10x. Okay, and then again, we're going to subtract these two lines. Now what you need to do in order to do that is bring down your next term and write it beside your minus 5x squared. So we're bringing down the x and writing it beside there. So minus 5x squared minus 5x squared gives us 0x squared. Again, we're not going to write that in. And then plus x minus negative 10x is going to give us positive 11x. Then we got to do this one more time. We're going to see how many times x goes into 11x, and that would be 11 times. Let's bring down this 2 here and write it beside so that we've got it there ready for our next step. And then we're going to multiply 11 times x, gives us 11x, and 11 times 2 gives us plus 22. Again, we're going to subtract these two sets of terms. 11x minus 11x gives us 0x, and then 2 minus 22 gives us negative 20. So you're going to continue this process on and on until you get either a remainder of 0, so our remainder is our number that is left over after we've done our long division, or the degree of our remainder is less than the divisor. So our divisor is an x, meaning it's a degree of 1. Our negative 20 is just a number, meaning it's a degree of 0. So we have satisfied this statement here. As our final answer for this type of problem, we want to write out a division statement. Our division statement then is going to be our dividend is equal to our quotient. So the quotient is the top thing on top of the division sign here, times the divisor, which was x plus 2, and then plus the remainder. Our division statement for this problem then would be x cubed minus 3x squared plus x plus 2 is equal to our quotient, which is x squared minus 5x plus 11 times our divisor, x plus 2, plus our remainder, which is negative 20. This would be our final answer for this problem. It's important to note too that there would be a restriction on this, and that is that x cannot equal to -2, because if x were to equal -2, our divisor, x plus 2, would equal to 0, and we cannot divide by 0. In our second example then, we've got x cubed minus 7x minus 6 divided by x plus 1. Let's set up our long division again. X plus 1 divided by x cubed. Now here in this example we don't have an x squared term, so let's put in our 0x squared, and then minus 7x minus 6. We're going to start then. How many times does x go into x cubed? It goes in x squared times, and then we're going to multiply x squared times x to give us x cubed, and x squared times 1 to give us 1x squared, and then we're going to subtract these two. X cubed minus x cubed gives 0, and 0 minus plus 1x gives us minus x squared. Let's bring down our next term, the negative 7x. And now, how many times does x go into negative x squared? It goes in negative x times. Negative x times x is negative x squared, and negative x times 1 gives us negative x. Again, subtracting these two sets of terms, negative x squared minus negative x squared gives you 0x squared, and then negative 7x minus negative x gives us minus 6x. Let's bring down our last term, negative 6. X goes into negative 6x, negative 6 times, and then negative 6 times x gives us negative 6x, and negative 6 times 1 gives us negative 6. If we subtract these, we would get a remainder of 0. Our division statement then would be x cubed minus 7x minus 6 is equal to x squared minus x minus 6 times x plus 1. Remainder is 0, so we don't need to put that in. So what does this remainder of 0 actually mean? It means that x plus 1 is a factor of our polynomial x cubed minus 7x minus 6. We can summarize then this long division of polynomials in fancy mathematical terms. How this would go then is the result of the division of the polynomial p at x by a binomial in the form x minus b is going to be this whole thing here, where q of x is our quotient and our remainder is r at x. Don't worry about this so much, just if you like it in specific mathematical terms, this is how we would write it out.